Welcome! Today we're going to dive into one of the most fascinating and universal symbols you'll ever find, something that pops up in art and in the human mind, again and again. It's called the mandala, and together we're going to unpack this complex idea and make it crystal clear. Okay, so let's start with a big question, one that has had people scratching their heads for centuries. Why is it that no matter where you look, ancient art, modern art, even your own dreams, you keep seeing these same patterns? Circles, squares, things divided into four. What is going on? It's like there's a hidden blueprint inside all of us. You see it right here, in these incredibly detailed drawings from the psychologist Carl Jung. This one is called Systema Mundi Totius, and it was one of the very first mandalas he ever made. And get this, he drew it as a map of his own mind and the cosmos before he even really knew what he was drawing. And you find these patterns in old alchemical books, filled with all this mysterious imagery. Look at this, a philosophical tree growing right out of a person. These aren't just quirky old illustrations. They're showing a deep, unconscious journey of transformation. So, to really get this, we have to start with Carl Jung's own story. He went on this incredibly dangerous journey, not to some faraway land, but deep into the human mind itself. And it was a journey that almost broke him. So, after he had this huge, dramatic split from his mentor, Sigmund Freud, Jung decided to do something pretty radical. He called it a confrontation with the unconscious. Basically, he just opened the floodgates and let all the strange, powerful, and unknown parts of his own mind come rushing out. Now, his approach was totally different from Freud's. You see, Freud thought dreams were the royal road to the unconscious, something you'd analyze after you woke up. But for Jung, that wasn't enough. He wanted to talk to the unconscious directly while he was wide awake. So he developed this technique called active imagination. The best way to think about it is like a very vivid daydream. But instead of you being in control, you let the images from your unconscious just appear. And then you talk to them. You interact with them like they're real. It's a dialogue with your inner world. It was kind of like opening a door to a whole other dimension, which this image really captures beautifully. It was a way to make contact with those deep, messy, unknown parts of who you are, all in the service of a really profound and life-changing transformation. So after diving headfirst into this inner chaos, what did Jung actually find? Well, in the middle of it all, he discovered this incredible, organizing pattern that seemed to bubble up all on its own. He just found himself, day after day, spontaneously drawing the same kind of image, a circle, usually with four distinct parts. It was only much later that he found out this shape had a name and history going back thousands of years. It was the mandala. And here's what's so cool about the mandala. It's not just some pretty design. Psychologically speaking, it's an archetype. It's a symbol of the self, with a capital S. And the self isn't just your ego. It's the center of your entire personality, the hub that organizes everything else. So basically, it's a pattern of order that your own mind creates when things feel chaotic. It's the psyche's natural way of trying to heal itself, to find its center, and to create a sense of wholeness and balance when everything feels like it's falling apart. Jung had this great way of describing it. He called it a psychological viewfinder. Imagine your mind as just a storm of confusion. The mandala is like a lens you place over it, and suddenly everything starts to fall into place, held together by that protective circle. Okay, so if we look inside that protective circle, there's another pattern that shows up constantly, and it's all about the number 4. Jung came to believe that 4 was actually the blueprint for psychological wholeness. Yeah, the number 4. Think about it. It's the smallest number you need to create a really stable system. You've got the 4 seasons, the 4 cardinal directions, the 4 ancient elements. It's a number that just feels complete, balanced. Jung gave this a name, the quaternity. He saw it as the numerical archetype of the self. It's the pattern the mind uses to make sense of itself and to bring all of its opposites, like good and bad, light and dark, into a single, unified whole. But here's where it gets really weird and interesting. This pattern of 4 often shows up as a 3 plus 1. So you'll have 3 things that are kind of the same, and then one that's totally different, the odd one out. And once you start looking for it, you see this pattern everywhere in myths and religion. In Egypt, 3 of Horus's sons had animal heads. 1 was human. The 4 evangelists, 3 are represented by animals, and 1 is a human or an angel. It's this deep, reoccurring theme woven into our collective stories. This whole mystery of the fourth, the one that's different, has obsessed people for thousands of years. It's like the missing piece of the puzzle. Even Plato kicks off one of his most famous dialogues, the Timaeus, by basically asking, okay, we've got 1, 2, 3, but where's the fourth guy? And this all brings us right back to where we started, art. Because it turns out these ancient, unconscious patterns aren't just in old myths. They're showing up all over the place in modern art, often telling us something really important about our modern minds. Jung believed that a lot of modern art is actually expressing this huge split in our collective psyche. A divide between our logical, conscious minds and our deeper, wilder, unconscious nature. And art is where that inner conflict finds a voice. And artists, a lot of the time, without even realizing it, become a channel for these ancient images. Jung looked at paintings by the surrealist Yves Tongway and saw his bizarre, dreamlike landscapes as the perfect picture of this collision between our neat, rational world and the strange, alien world of the unconscious. But this stuff isn't just for famous artists. I mean, look at this. This powerful image of the philosophical tree, which is a classic symbol for personal growth, this wasn't painted by some alchemist centuries ago. It was made by a regular person in therapy. It just shows that these symbols will emerge from anyone who's on that journey of self-discovery. So in the end, all these symbols you see in art, the circles, the squares, the trees, they're more than just things to look at. They're mirrors. They reflect this universal human need for balance, for order, and for wholeness. The mandala is a reminder that even when things feel chaotic, there's a pattern inside us working towards completion. And that leaves us with one final thought. If these symbols are a universal language of the soul, what patterns might be trying to emerge in your own life?